Week 8 getting started with a Thursday nighter. Are the Los Angeles Rams back? And who even are these two teams? Minnesota Vikings going in the wrong direction recently, and we're making picks for all the games in Week 8 right now.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers and appreciate all the new listeners as well. Subscribe up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Every week in the NFL, Matt, we learn more about teams, which is the opposite of what we already knew about teams, which just scrambles my brain weekly. And this week it was not as much the Minnesota Vikings, but definitely the Los Angeles Rams. In fact, yesterday's episode, and by the way, our record picking games on Thursday nights is horrendous this year. 1 week we're like, man, no way. This is a scheduled loss on the road, short week, and then the road team wins. And then this week it's like, the Rams are in sell mode. They're about to blow this whole thing up. Stafford and Kupp are both going to get traded next week on the mini buy for the Rams. And the Minnesota Vikings, who have been one of the best teams in the NFL, they're coming in. They're going to win this game. And what happens? The exact opposite is what happened on Thursday night. And it was the Los Angeles Rams defeating the Minnesota Vikings by a score of 30-20 was the final. And I know Minnesota Vikings fans rightfully should be mad about a bad non-call that turned into a safety, turned into points, which would have given the Vikings maybe an opportunity to go down there and tie a game. And so they should be upset about that. But the Rams thoroughly won this game, I think, kind of from start to finish, in my opinion. And the Rams looked like the better team on this night. Is this a short week factor, or is this a factor of Matthew Stafford getting a healthy Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua back? Because I've got some statistics that point to the latter, that maybe this is now a different football team. And then we've got to answer an even bigger question after we kind of break down what happened in this game specifically. Who are the Rams and where are they? Are they a fire sale team, or should they be like, oh, never mind, we're a game out of first place in the West. Let's go win this thing.
I don't think they're a firehouse team or a fire sale team. I mean, I don't think Kupp's available. Stafford, certainly not. I mean, the state of that division, you're not too far off the leaders at this point. You know, I think you're within striking distance, but if you got blown out last night, then maybe, but
okay, so you think that was how important this game was, that it's either everyone goes or we're actually maybe even buying at the trade deadline.
Yeah, they're an aggressive organization. Maybe they do think they can get something, maybe something in their back seven or something along those lines. But I have a lot of notes on this game. And first off, I thought it was a really good game. I mean, it was a well-played game. I hate that the face mask thing at the end is even something we're talking about. It was a horrific call, but not the reason they lost. I also don't quite understand why it's not reviewable, because it seems like everything's reviewable now, and it was a scoring play.
Yeah. That's the part for me, is like, it's a scoring play, so that means it is reviewable. The whole play is supposed to be opened up to review, but that specific type of call apparently is not reviewable. But if we're doing replay, why doesn't replay exist to fix things? Is
I know.
I just don't understand.
An obvious fix,
Yes. And the Minnesota Vikings have been through this, by the way, which is why things did change, and a certain call became reviewable in the first place, and the league said, never mind, we don't want that to be. So, I get it right. Come on. If we're going to do all this, let's get it right, guys.
It goes back to my big red button theory. Like, someone should be in a little booth with a big red button, and if the ref screw something up, you pound the button and they review it. And nobody needs red challenge flags anymore. There's just someone in there or three people in there or whatever. Pound this button. But anyway, let's talk about the game.
Scoring play, and there's plenty of time. Like, there was so much time for them to figure this out and get it right. But
it would have taken 1 minute.
Not reviewable. We know what the problem is. We screwed it up. It's not right, but we are not allowed to fix this thing, even though we have the technology, we have the time, and we have the evidence.
The final whistle would have taken 2 minutes longer to blow than it did. You know, I mean, like
Probably
it's an
no.
obvious flip. But anyway, I think the Rams. It's funny. I do that Steelers show every day, and yesterday we had a segment where we were going over someone's quarterback ranks, and Stafford was like 16, and I literally like spit my water out of my mouth. I'm like, what? And I'm not ripping on. I've made lists. I've been picked on too, and I know he hasn't had a tremendous year, but I'm like, no, that dude is legit, and he would help every team in the league basically. And then you give him his two dudes. And Kyren Williams deserves a lot of credit. The line's starting to round back into shape. That's a really good offense led by Stafford. Now, a couple things that I wish I would have taken more into account, and this is hindsight, of course, is the Lions are the new 49ers. I mean, if you play them the week before, you lose the next week, you know, and especially on a short week on the road. And I definitely think that there's a big brother, little brother coaching thing going on last night too. You know, like I used to be in McVay's staff, and I know you know, and I know that you know, and they were great at picking up all the Flores blitzes and all the havoc he creates. They handled that stuff extremely well. And then the last note I have is losing Darrisaw is big. You know, I mean, if this is going to be a season ender, that offensive line is like the anti-Chiefs, where the tackles are great, the interior is bad. The Chiefs are the opposite. And Darrisaw is one of their absolute best players. That being said, Jared Verse is my defensive rookie of the year. I think he is a stud in the making. And when Darrisaw went out, it was like, oh, no. And I know we'll talk Commanders at some point. It doesn't look like Jaden Daniels is going to play, but I could see this being the week where we kind of say Minnesota and Washington are really good stories, success stories, but they're not. They might outkick their coverage to start the season a little bit, you know.
Jared Verse has been phenomenal. He's not even a finished product, and I don't know if like biomechanically he's ever going to become like a great bender around the edge.
No, I don't think so.
So powerful and explosive, and probably the most underrated thing for a pass rusher. You see this with TJ Watt, relentless. That's the
loves it.
To be a great pass rusher.
Physical, bully. You know,
so I've got a stat here that backs up what you're talking about with the Rams and when they have everybody healthy. This is relayed from Nate Tice, who's a fantastic follow.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
At Nate_Tice. And I believe he's with Yahoo Sports.
He is with Yahoo. His dad was a Vikings head coach, coincidentally.
Right. Exactly. And so that's going to come up here. So on the 386 plays for which Stafford, Kupp, Nakua, and Williams have been on the field together this season. Now, this is last season stats. The Rams go from a good offense to the top offense in the NFL, and one that operates at an all-time clip. On those 386 plays, the Rams average 0.18 EPA per play, which easily ranks first this season. I think that's talking about last season, and would be tied for the 9th highest mark since the 2000 season. Yes, it's less than half of the plays that a typical NFL offense would run in a given year, which is kind of the problem because Kupp and Puka Nakua, and the way they're used as power slots, and those guys are physical and get hit a lot, and they get hurt a lot. And Stafford's spent some time hurt, and running backs always spend time hurt. So that's kind of a problem with this. But when they're all together, it's a chunky enough sample size, and the offenses the Rams would be tied with are notable when all those players were together last season. The 2010 and 11 Patriots. That's the Randy Moss Patriots, where Brady went for 50 touchdowns. The 2016 Falcons, that's MVP Matt Ryan with Julio Jones and Kyle Shanahan with the Super Bowl. The 2006 Colts, Peyton Manning and that powerhouse offense, and the offense that he says he has a personal affection for, which is the 2004 Vikings, which his dad coached. So those
also Randy Moss.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the teams that the Rams operate on that level when they have Stafford, Kupp, Nakua, and Williams all on the field together at the same time.
Wow. And they always have McVay.
Right. Yes. And he's part of that as well. Yeah.
Yep. Impressive. I mean, the defense leaves a lot to be desired. I like their young defensive line a lot, led by Verse, but that back seven's a little scary.
And the Vikings without Darrisaw now, potentially, we don't have any confirmation on an ACL.
Haven't seen it, but it didn't look good. They ruled him out the second it happened. Right?
Yeah, that's always a bad sign there. So potentially no Darrisaw, who's, aside from Justin Jefferson, probably just, their best player on offense. So that's really a tough one. And
looks like they'll get Hawkinson back next week. He was game time this week and long week.
So the Vikings have lost 2 in a row now. 5-0 start. Now they're 5-2. The Rams at 3-4. So interesting with these two teams, and kind of it's a race to the middle in the NFL, Matt. Who's good? I don't know. Who's bad? Not that many teams are that bad either. So this is going to be a crazy wild card race, I have a feeling, in both the AFC and the NFC now.
Yeah, the problem is, though, that one thing I do know is good is the NFC North. And you start dropping games, you can get behind the 8 ball in a hurry in that division.
I mean, the Vikings could be in last place next week after starting 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's possible. And they lost head-to-head to the Lions,
Next, let's get into our picks for week 8 of the NFL season. We've already made a little 6-pack of picks, but we'll get to the rest of them. We've got the Falcons and the Bucs, which should be a good one in the NFC South, Indy versus Houston in the AFC South, and always a great rivalry game, Niners, Cowboys, and a whole lot more next. This episode of Peacock Williamson brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy, and it's a whole lot of fun. And now you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And all you do is you pick 2 or more. And come on, last night was easy. Justin Jefferson, more than 6 receptions. He had 6 receptions in the first quarter, I think, first half. 2 or more players is all you do. You pick 2 or more players, and you're playing versus the stat projections at Prize Picks. You're not playing against the other 10 million users at Prize Picks. And by the way, Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. So you can join all 10 million folks that are playing DFS on Prize Picks, but you're not playing against them. You're playing against the stat projections on Prize Picks. And for example, if you want to go more than on Saquon Barkley's 67.5 rush yards, or you want to go less than 267.5 passing yards for Patrick Mahomes, you can do that as well. So find what you think is your advantage at Prize Picks and download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Run your game. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a big difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on whatever my activities are the next day, doing podcasts first thing in the morning and without worry, thanks to ZBiotics and pre-alcohol. And pre-alcohol probiotic drink by ZBiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, it gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. And I was blown away when I tried it, and it worked perfectly. And it's easy. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol for best results. Make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. It's tiny little vial of liquid. And then you drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, have a good night's sleep, and then enjoy the next day. Wake up feeling refreshed. It's that easy. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. All right, let's make some picks. If you want to hear our 6-pack of picks that we completely got the Thursday night game wrong again, but I think we made some really some good picks on the next one. We disagreed a lot yesterday or on Wednesday when we did our 6-pack of picks. KC, Las Vegas, Tennessee at Detroit, Baltimore at Cleveland, New York Giants at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and New Orleans Saints at the Los Angeles Chargers. You can listen to our 6-pack of picks episode. Let's get into the rest of the games here in week 8. And I want to start with the Falcons and the Buccaneers, which is a really good one. 2 4-3 teams right now vying for the top spot in the South. The Atlanta Falcons have won this match. This is already their second. This is their second and final matchup, right? Didn't they begin October playing each other? Now they're going to end October playing each other. The Falcons at the Buccaneers for the top spot in the South right now. One of these teams is going to be a 4-4, 500 team, and one of these teams is going to have a couple game lead at 5-3 unless it becomes a tie. It's the Falcons on the road favored by 2.5.
I like the points here. I think it's going to be a really close game. I don't know that anyone should be getting points, and I think there's probably an overreaction to the Godwin-Evans injuries, which are substantial, don't get me wrong. But I still think the Bucs offensive line is greatly improved and is probably a top 5 type of unit now. And they should be able to run on a Bucs or a Falcons front that I'm not super impressed with. They should be able to protect pretty well. Need Baker to reel it in a little bit, but I like the Bucs in this one.
I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go with the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm gonna give up the 2.5 because I think Evans and Godwin is that big of a loss, and I think this would probably be pretty close to a pick 'em. But that's 3 points in my opinion, not having your top 2 wide receivers, and we'll see how it ends up turning out for these two teams. And I've really liked what I've seen from the Bucs at times this year. I've really liked what I've seen from the Falcons at times this year. And I think it's a different Falcons team right now than what we saw at the start of the year. And I think they've just got more firepower right now. So give me the Atlanta Falcons here to defeat the Buccaneers.
All right. I like it.
How about the Eagles at the Bengals, the 4-2 Eagles at the 3-4 Bengals. The Bengals have kind of been up against it for a while, and each game feels like a must win for them because they can't fall too far behind in the AFC North, and they're at home, and they're favored by 3 over the visiting Philadelphia Eagles.
I think the wrong team's favored. I mean, these are 4 awesome receivers, and I definitely give Burrow the nod, but I give the Barkley edge strongly to the Eagles. I give the defensive edge to the Eagles, not massively, but I think their corners can handle these receivers better than the Bengals can. Bengals have both their tackles banged up, and we just saw the Eagles sack the Giants like 8 or 9 times last week. I think 3 is way too much.
I'm with you. I'm taking the points here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, Offensive Player of the Year, potentially?
I think it's him and Henry, right?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously they're not going to get the MVP because that's a quarterback award now.
Mm-hmm.
Does the Lamar, Derrick Henry, do they sort of eat votes away from each other? And then
probably
they don't get either MVP or Offensive Player of the Year potentially. But Saquon Barkley's been huge for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I just think they're a more complete team right now than the Cincinnati Bengals.
Not exactly young running backs either. Like these. Is this going to be a trend? I mean, like Kamara started the season on fire and then his offensive line fell apart. Like, can maybe these running backs not hit an age wall as much as they used to 5 years ago or whatever? Or it's just those two are freaks.
Where are you at on the Tua-led Dolphins? The Dolphins are favored by 4. The 2-4 Dolphins are hosting the 3-4 Cardinals, and Tua is back. And they look like a completely different team, but they look so bad that it's like, man, is Tua that big of a difference where the entire team is terrible, and then he comes back, and now all of a sudden the entire team is really good, and they can run and pass and play defense. It's like, but the line
be that much. I mean, it's like the worst offense in the league compared to the best offense in the league. That's too big of a gap,
The best offense in the league, the best offense in the league has scored 3 times more points than the Dolphins.
Wow.
The worst by a lot.
I like him though in this game. I mean, that's a long road trip. I think the Cardinals defense is not very good, but I got to think there's going to be some Tua rust. I just can't imagine Tyreek and Waddle and Achane not putting up numbers against this defense. And it shocked me they didn't even last week all that much without Tua. This could be a lot of points. I mean, it looks like 46 over under. I'd probably go over. And I'm going to lay the points in Miami.
Gosh, this is one where if it happened in week 1 or 2, I would say look out for the Dolphins to score like 50.
Yeah, right.
But now I don't know what to think about this Dolphins team, even with Tua. But I do think they should be able to put some points up on the board. But man, I hate this one because how bad the Dolphins have looked without Tua. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Mike McDaniel, Tua, they've got all those weapons to get things right. So I'm going to give up the points with the home Miami Dolphins here. I wouldn't take them on the road, though. But I just, the long trip. Show me something, Dolphins. Are they back in it? Are they going to be like the Rams, where it's like, okay, fire sale. Oh, nope, never mind. They're going to go try to win the division.
I know this is one of your pet peeves, but in a week when there's no buys, why is this game at 1 o'clock? Like, do Arizona a slight favor and have it at 4,
I agree. I'm with you.
I mean, what's the difference for Miami?
By the way, the weather right now in Miami is 81 but raining.
Ooh, the sloppy field could hurt my overcall.
Yeah, but also just like humid but hot, like just weird weather. I guess the heat's not going to bother anybody from Arizona.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the Heat, but I think that they can handle it.
The New York Jets are at the New England Patriots. It's the 2-5 Jets at the 1-6 Pats. The Jets favored by a touchdown. 7 points on the road at the Patriots.
I hate this one because the Jets just keep losing week after week, but you would think that they dominate the worst offensive line in the league. They have so much more talent than the Patriots. Do they get back on track this week, or do the wheels officially fall off? Like what cliche can we use around the Jets? It's just dripping with drama. I guess I'll take the Jets, but I think this is too many points. This is a lot of points for the Jets.
It's a lot of points. I don't like that, but I do think that there's just such a big talent difference. Rookie quarterback against a good defense, and obviously the offensive line you mentioned there, the New England Patriots. This is a get-right game for the Jets, and then you have a full, practice week, and Devontae Adams should be more ready to go this week and be a bigger factor. I mean, that's just too much power from the New York Jets, even with an Aaron Rodgers that might not be the Hall of Fame guy anymore. Give me the Jets.
A lot of points.
Next, we got Colts and Texans. We got Niners, Cowboys, and a whole lot more. We're making picks for Week 8. You can find all of the lines that we reference here on Peacock and Williamson at FanDuel.com or on the FanDuel app. And you can get $200 in bonus bets when you sign up and play your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. More on that momentarily. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you want to check the latest stats, you want to view live play-by-play and so much more. Guess what? You can find all of that on the same page where you place your bets at FanDuel.com and maybe get informed on the next bet you want to make. NBA season, NHL season getting going. We got the World Series starting Friday night. And, of course, all the weekly lines, NFL props that you can shake a stick at FanDuel.com. And you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com or download the app and get America's #1 sports book. That is FanDuel.com. All right, here we go. We got Bryce Young. Young gonna be back at this, back in the helm, back starting for the Carolina Panthers. They're on the road at the Denver Broncos, and is Denver? I mean, such huge lines this week. Denver favored by 10.5 at home against the Carolina Panthers.
That's how bad the Panthers are. 10.5, awful place to play. I think Denver really controls both lines of scrimmage. Young doesn't inspire confidence to me. Man, I wish it was 10.5. I mean, 10.5. I keep saying that over and over. 10.5. I think I'll take Denver. And this is just a total slight on Carolina's terrible defense. And Deontay Johnson's not going to play. Where are the points going to come from? I think Surtain's back. But, man, should Denver really be favored by 10.5 over anyone?
I don't know that they should, but they have a better team at 4-3 than I expected them to be.
Yes.
10.5 is tough. I think there is a non-zero chance that this was really good for Bryce Young to sit and watch, have a little reset for multiple weeks, and then come back and play a little bit more like an NFL quarterback should be able to play. But, doesn't have his best receiver.
Does it change your tune at all that I'm looking at EPA right now and Denver's defense is number 1?
They're number 1 as in
EPA. Best defense in the league.
Wow. That's rough then. On the road, altitude. Yeah. I get that. That's why the line is 10.5. I hate it.
Right, exactly.
I guess I'm going to take I'm going to take the Broncos, I guess. I mean,
this is the one I've gone back and forth with the most.
Normally, this is one of those where 10.5 is too much. Not enough games, even when you think it's going to be a blowout. Things go the other way. NFL is chaos. There's no confidence I have in the Panthers to keep it close.
Especially their defense. I mean, even if Young's okay, the Panthers have nothing on defense.
We have got the Green Bay Packers at the Jacksonville Jaguars, the 5-2 Packers that have a chance to jump ahead of the Minnesota Vikings in those NFC North standings at the 2-5 Jags, and the Green Bay Packers, as you would expect, are favored by 4 points on the road.
I like Green Bay, and I'm pretty strong on this one. There's two things I really don't like from a Jags perspective. First off, their secondary against Love and these receivers it's a bad group. Their pass offense is bad. But the other thing is, I really dislike that this team's been in London for 2 weeks, so their bodies get totally used to that, time frame, and they don't have a bye. Apparently they asked not to have a bye. Like, you would think this is no bye weeks this week. I think that's going to screw with them for a 1 o'clock game. I don't care what time it's at.
And they're worse than the Packers.
And they're worse than the Packers.
So yeah. I like this one as well. Give me the Packers.
Yep.
The Indianapolis Colts are at the Houston Texans. And don't look now. If the Colts defeat the Texans on the road at Houston, they'll be deadlocked at the top of the AFC South. Houston, though, favored by 5 at home.
We're going to get Richardson for better or worse, I think, from here on out. I had a good conversation on Locked On NFL this morning about it. I don't love where Houston's offense is at, considering their firepower. The line's been bad. So many penalties. Tunsil doesn't seem the same. No Nico. The Colts are going to be physical. Buckner's back. Taylor's back. I'm going to take Houston, though. I just think they're still a much more talented team with much better firepower and a much better quarterback.
Yeah, I love getting Jonathan Taylor back. And I don't know what to expect from the Colts, and the Houston Texans should be a better team and could still even win ugly, which they have a few times this season, and they haven't been that complete dominating team that you thought they might have been coming into this year. But they are at home. I would rather it be 3 points than 5 points, but I'm still going to give up the points and pick the Houston Texans.
They really need it to assert their dominance in this division. I mean, you give Houston or Indy a lot of life here with the loss.
Oh, and you lose, and you have a head-to-head against them as well.
Yeah, right. Could be in a little bit of trouble.
How about the Buffalo Bills at the Seattle Seahawks? Here's a pretty good one. 5-2 Bills on the road at the 4-3 Seahawks. Buffalo on the road favored by 3 points.
I'm a little shocked it's 3. It's a tough road trip from Buffalo to Seattle and a brutal place to play. I don't think we're going to see Metcalf. We're definitely going to see more of Amari. I think this is a sloppy one that starts slow from the Bills, and then they start to get better and better as the game goes on. I wouldn't touch it. 3 to me is a perfect line, but I'll take the Bills because I think they're going to win.
The Seahawks getting healthier as well, and I think they're getting Abraham Lucas back.
I think so.
Don't think Stone Forsythe, who actually I think got hurt anyway and when he got put on IR, is going to be starting, and he's been really the weak link since they've had so many injuries at right tackle. So that's a huge gain for the Seahawks, and they get some of their defensive linemen back as well. They've added some pieces.
Ernest Jones could be a big player,
Jones, a linebacker who's a good blitzer as well. So to add to that pass rush. I think I like taking the points here. Home Seahawks, that's usually a pretty good bet, and the Buffalo Bills are a really good team, but I like the points. I like the Seahawks here.
How many Bills have played in Seattle ever? Probably not many.
Yeah, this is a rare matchup. I wonder how many times these teams have even played each other.
Every 4 years, and that's probably it.
We've got the Chicago Bears at the Commanders. Big question here is Jaden Daniels. Can we see Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams? Do we have any confirmation here?
Don't think. Something popped up on my phone. I'm going to sneak around here a little bit, but
because obviously it would be so fun just from a fan's perspective to watch the 1 and 2 pick in the NFL draft go at it. I said this. We've been doing these new squads. If you haven't checked them out on the Locked On Podcast Network, an AFC squad and an NFC squad, where 8 or 10 of us hosts all get together and kind of just in an informal environment, talk smack to each other, and talk about some of the stories around the NFL. And everyone's going crazy about Jaden Daniels for good reason, and talking about, man, okay, if there was an I think the MVP frontrunners are all in the AFC right now, but if there was an NFC MVP, would it be like Jaden Daniels? And it kind of became a Jaden Daniels versus Jared Goff conversation.
I think Goff's the other one I would throw out there.
Right. And I think most of us ended up picking Goff, but Jaden Daniels needs to play, even if he's hurt. And I think he's going to play because it's more of a pain threshold thing for him here. And usually guys end up playing.
Here's what Dan Quinn said about it. He said, he told reporters, this was just a couple minutes ago, Jaden Daniels did wind up practicing today, and we, quote, really pushed it. So we'll evaluate his status over the next 48 hours.
He's playing.
So I guess that sounds like it.
Yeah.
But that's great. I mean, what a fun matchup if he plays.
Jaden Daniels needs to play hurt because Marcus Mariota looked really good. And you don't want to all of a sudden have Mariota look good again. And all of a sudden everyone's giving credit to Cliff Kingsbury and the rest of the team instead of Jaden Daniels. We're like, well, wait a second. Mariota looks good too, Jaden Daniels.
Anybody can do it in that.
Right. But, and obviously I don't think that's the case, but let's hope that we get Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. And under that assumption, how do you like Chicago favored by 3 on the road at the Commanders? And once Jaden Daniels is announced as the starter, do you think that line changes? So do you think you're getting, assuming he does play, do you think you get a little bit of extra credit here by taking the home Commanders?
So I picked the Bears an hour ago on Locked On NFL because I thought Daniels wasn't playing. Like it seemed like broken ribs. I think they have a bye after this week. I'm not certain about that, but sit him here, take your lumps. But that sure sounded like it's a good chance he plays. And to me, that's maybe the difference in this pick. So on this podcast, I'm going to take Washington +3 at home. Although I think Chicago could win this one going away. The Commanders' defense is definitely the worst unit of the 4, and that worries me.
Same. And that's worries me all year, but it hasn't mattered.
I know. It hasn't mattered.
So home Commanders with Jaden Daniels and plus a little Toradol maybe. And home dog getting points. I'm going to take the points here with the Commanders and 3 points. And I think that line is going to change if Jaden Daniels is announced as the starter. Now, if it's Mariota, we'll see. And maybe I would want to go the other way. Way to cover all your bases by picking both.
Let's take them both. I should do that every Friday.
Yeah, that's smart. Smart.
I'm like,
all right, final game here, Sunday nighter. It's going to be fun. It's always fun with 49ers Cowboys. This is a rivalry that goes back to before I was born. It's neither team playing to the level they hoped coming in. There's 6 combined wins between these teams in week 8, which is something that I didn't think would be the case. But Cowboys 3-3. They're on the road at the 3-4 49ers, but it is the 49ers that is favored by 4.5 points. This line has gone down a lot because of all the injuries on the Niners side. They were favored by a touchdown like before last week's games, and it's gone all the way down to 4 and then back up to 4.5 now. 49ers favored at home against the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm taking the Niners, and just a little funny anecdote. I got a kick out of it because on Locked On today, they played a clip of you and Marcus Mosher talking about Bosa, and we reacted to that. And I'm like, that's weird. I host a podcast with both those dudes. I don't ever see them, two worlds colliding. Like I never see those two talking. I'm always chatting with them, only once a week with Marcus on Locked On Dynasty. But I like the Niners here. Bosa has a lot to do with it. I don't think their tackles are going to be able to handle him at all. Dak has really spiked in his turnover-worthy plays. He's just being asked to do too much, and CeeDee Lamb can't take all the heavy lifting in the receiving game because they don't stop the run and they don't run the ball well. And I think Shanahan. What's that?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
The last thing I'd say is I just think Shanahan looks in the mirror and says, time to get back to running the football. Let's just run this thing. And I think that's the formula.
I want to jump in on the Lamb thing because it's like nobody else on that offense scares you. So you pay as much attention as you want to CeeDee Lamb because you're not too worried about Jalen Tolbert, just torching guys one-on-one, or you're not worried about Rico Dowdle and Zeke Elliott and the run game too much. So you don't have to, stack the box, and the offensive line is either kind of playing bad or hurt in a lot of cases with most of the players up front for the Cowboys. And so I think the 49ers have an opportunity to get well in this game before they go have a bye and lick their wounds and get healthy, even though they are hurt quite a bit. And I think they might have to lean on some rookie wide receivers in this game. And, Debo is not going to be 100% with pneumonia that he's dealing with, even if he plays at all. So I think that's going to be the plan. It's going to be the Cowboys knowing the Niners are going to come in and try to run the heck out of the ball, run it 40 times. And can the Cowboys stop that? And the Cowboys can't rush the passer or stop the run right now because they have so many injuries to all their pass rushers. No Micah Parsons. So to me, it just points to a 49ers victory. They're going to try to impose their will. Can the Cowboys score a whole bunch of points would be the big question here. And I think the matchup is better for the 49ers defense against the Cowboys offense than the Cowboys defense against the Niners offense. Niners win this one. I'm giving up the 4.5.
I agree. At home as well. And last note I have on the Cowboys is they've drafted really well, but they still have like 4 or 5 big roster holes. You know, like you go a whole off season without bringing anything in free agency, and it's like, well, all of a sudden it gets ahead of you, you know?
And it goes back to the Rams conversation. When you build sort of a top-heavy roster, a stars and scrubs kind of a roster, and you lose one of those stars, it's
right.
Like, oh, wow. Well, that's tough to overcome because now you're banking on some guy that you don't really know if he can play. And then they're the other, you know, it's not just Micah Parsons, the guy on the other side's hurt too. And then one of the backups is hurt. And by the way, this is an interesting nugget here from Pro Football Focus looking at defensive linemen. Mozzie Smith, the first rounder from last year.
Yeah.
He had a 31.8 and this is out of 100. Like nobody gets a 100 grade.
Oh, I was saying he's been bad. Yeah.
But his PFF grade so far this season, 31.8 for Mozzie Smith. That's 119th out of 119 interior defensive linemen.
Not good for your first round pick. That's okay if you're an undrafted free agent, you know, but
right.
I just said they drafted well, but not that one.
And they're like, hey, couldn't he get hurt instead of Micah Parsons?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Brutal.
Those are the picks for week 8. Let us know what you think at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Drop a comment on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. Appreciate all the everydayers out there, and welcome to all the new listeners. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Matt and I back to break it all down Monday right here, Peacock and Williamson.